An American NGO which has now shared data with the Indian government, and this is with respect to alarming figures of about 25,000 cases of suspected child pornographic material which has been uploaded across social media platforms, and this has been done just in a period of past 5 months. According to the media report on this, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or the NCMEC, which is in the US, has shared this data with the National Crime Records Bureau in India. This report puts Delhi on top of the list of states from where such content is being uploaded and shared, followed by other states such as Maharashtra, Gujarat and West Bengal. Let's get in further inputs. I have with us my colleague Tanima getting us those details on what else has been explained in this report here. Tanima, undoubtedly, this is something that the government would definitely need to take into account on this.
Right, let's just quickly take a look at what exactly this report is about. So it's a US-based NGO which monitors such cases, which has in fact alerted the Indian government. It's a data which has been shared with the National Crime Records Bureau, which is the repository of such data and records from India, of course. So if we see what are the main, the salient points of this information which has been shared by the US NGO. So the first part, of course, is that these are 25,000 cases of suspected child pornographic material which has been uploaded over the past 5 months. This report also highlights which are the states from which such objectionable material has in fact been uploaded. If we go into the next point, it will say that the US Center in fact shares these details with the National Crime Records Bureau, as I mentioned. If we go into the following point, so as I mentioned, that this is a list of states. It has in fact in a way mapped the states from which such objectionable material has in fact been uploaded on websites. So Delhi, according to this list, tops the list of states which have been uploading child sexual abuse material. If you go into that following point there are other states also from which such material is in fact being uploaded. Maharashtra, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal also on the top half of the list. So these are some of the areas which have in fact been highlighted in this report. That information has been shared, of course, with the Ministry of Home Affairs through the NCRB, and the ministry has shared this detail with the respective state police departments. Several cases following which, as I mentioned, have in fact been filed, arrests made across the country. We go into the following points there, where in fact what we do know is that specifically in Maharashtra there are 1,700 cases, and what our sources are telling us is that there's an equal number of such cases which have in fact been highlighted from each of the states which I mentioned, which are in the top half of the list. So it's an extremely worrying report which has in a way been shared by this US-based NGO, and the Indian government has taken this very seriously and acted according to the leads which have been provided.
All right, Tanima, also take us through what has been the action sought by the parliamentary panel here. It's interesting that this report also is being shared close on the heels of what the parliamentary panel recommendations here were to curb the menace of child pornography.
Right. In fact, very interestingly, Seher, this report comes close on the heels, or in fact, it's come out in the media close on the heels of this recommendations which have been given by the parliamentary panel. If we just take a quick look at what the parliamentary panel had in fact recommended in terms of fighting cases of child pornographic material floating on websites. So the panel had in fact called for mandatory monitoring of apps. So one of the ways, so in a way it is about not just curbing people from uploading these objectionable materials, but also to block access to such materials, not just by adults, but also by children. So monitoring of apps was one of the recommendations from the panel. It also recommended broader definition of child pornography in order to, probably for legal reasons, the definition needs to be expanded. Restricting generation and dissemination of child porn. So it was not just about uploading such objectionable content, but also distribution has to be blocked. To go into the following point there, it's also recommended making internet service providers accountable. So it has to be the internet service providers. It should not just end with the fact that this is being uploaded by certain people who will of course be under the ambit of the law, but also internet service providers need to be brought into the ambit of law as well, ensuring that online platforms remove obscene content. So it has to be proactively done by these websites to remove such kind of content. Going to the following point, where the panel recommended that a clause should be inserted in POCSO Act prescribing a code of conduct for online platforms. It is in continuation of what we are saying. School management, now it also says that now, because some of this content is not just exploiting children but also targeting children, So school management should be responsible for safety of children within schools. Now that is also another point which has been highlighted by the parliamentary panel. And the centre, another recommendation is that the centre shall be empowered to block all websites that carry child sexual abuse material. So as we mentioned, these are some of the important points which have been recommended by the parliamentary panel, also saying that the law enforcement agencies, this is an important one, should be permitted to break end-to-end encryption to trace distributors. So now this is of course the main point which the panel recommends as to how to actually trace the people who are responsible for uploading such content. So nonetheless, as we mentioned, that this is a serious issue which the Indian government is taking note of, not just basis the US report which has come in, but also the fact that the parliamentary panel has recommended a slew of directions which should be taken basis fighting child pornographic material.